Hi, English 2306 students, it's Dr. Murray. I wanted to talk to you in this video about Shakespeare's Sonnet 65. This is partly to prepare you to write your paper in which you're going to analyze one of Shakespeare's sonnets. Review my overview of the sonnet that you read last week. It talks about the differences between the structures and rhyme schemes, etc., of the Petrarchan sonnet versus the Shakespearean. It also goes into telling you about the Shakespearean. So even though I signed that last week, review, that document about overview of the sonnet, but also look at what I tell you specifically about Shakespeare's sonnet. That he had this collection of 154 sonnets that was published in 1609, and so an important thing to keep in mind is that they were generally about love, or some facet of love. And it doesn't mean all of them are just love poems like telling the beloved I love you, though that happens in them at some it happens in much more specific ways. But I would also say, but it's about all kinds of aspects of life that you experience when you are in love with someone. Jealousy, shame, there's lust, different things explored. One is an appreciation of the beauty of the beloved, and another is a recognition that that beauty can perish. And so there are times where the speaker wants to urge the beloved to have children to preserve their beauty in the next generation, or the speaker at times wants to preserve the beauty in his poem, because the speaker basically seems to believe that he's writing immortal poetry that might be able to preserve the beauty of the beloved. I don't know if we can know for sure whether immortality's been achieved, but certainly these poems have been around for hundreds of years, and don't seem to be losing any of their power. Let me get right to Sonnet 65 because I don't have a ton of time to talk about it, so I just want to get started. So remember, the Shakespeare sonnets have their specific rhyme scheme and form. Of course, it's a 14-line poem. The rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, then C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, and then the last two lines, G, G. That we call that a rhyming couplet. And in Sonnet 65, which you should bring up on a screen so you can look along with me when I read it, the couplet we can see here, the first of the two lines ends with might, the last one bright, and that means that the couplet often if the speaker in these poems is often exploring a certain subject matter or meditating on a certain problem or subject, I use the word problem, something that troubles the speaker or concerns the speaker or hurts the speaker, that maybe the speaker has thought it through so that by the end the couplet can resolve the issue. Let's also not forget about the volta, which is this turn that comes, and in the Petrarchan sonnet it tended to come when you're moving from the octave, the first 8 lines, into the sestet, the last 6 lines. And in the Shakespearean sonnet it usually comes nearer to the couplet at the end, though it doesn't always happen in exactly the same place. So let me read this one. Since brass nor stone nor earth no boundless sea, but sad mortality o'ersways their power, how with this rage shall beauty hold a plea whose action is no stronger than a flower? Oh, how shall summer's honey breath hold out against the wreckful siege of battering days, when rocks impregnable are not so stout, nor gates of steel so strong, but time decays? O fearful meditation, where, alack, shall time's best jewel from time's chest lie hid? Or what strong hand can hold his swift foot back? or who his spoil of beauty can forbid? Oh, none, unless this miracle have might, that in black ink my love may still shine bright. So it begins by saying, since brass nor stone nor earth nor boundless sea, but sad mortality o'ersways their power. So what he's telling us here is brass, stone, earth, boundless sea, these are things that are generally strong and resist being destroyed. That's why you carve things in stone. It's hard. Brass is hard. Earth and sea are elements that are around for a long time. But he's saying, but sad mortality o'ersways their power. O'ersways means oversways, almost like a wave, overswaying their power. Sad mortality. Destructibility might be another way of saying sad mortality. How with this rage, the raging destructive forces of nature that are going to eventually break down stone, brass, earth, destroy the sea in some way. How with this rage shall beauty hold a plea, whose action is no stronger than a flower? If a stone, monolith is going to eventually get broken down by time, what hope does beauty have, which is no stronger than a flower? Like, it's going to die so quickly. And then he says, oh, which is an expression of emotion. How shall summer's honey breath, the honey breath of summer, that's a metaphor. It's a way of talking about that the breeze, the breath in summer is almost scented with honey, which might be the smell of the flowers. How shall summer's honey breath hold out against the wrackful siege of battering days? Even the way that's phrased, wrackful siege of battering days. It's almost like a battering ram that's gonna break into the fortress and destroy, the gentle beauty of summer. When rocks impregnable means cannot be, cannot be penetrated. When impregnable rocks, when rocks that normally cannot be penetrated, it's like a stone fortress, are not so stout, they're not so great or tough, nor gates of steel so strong, but time decays. So these things that are normally strong, impregnable rocks or gates of steel, in the face of time's ability to decay things, they're not strong at all. It's just a matter of time, they'll be gone. He's just thinking about the perishability, basically, of all things. And then he exclaims, oh, fearful meditation. It's disturbing to him. Nothing lasts. Everything over, with enough passage of time, everything is ultimately destroyed. And then he says, where, and alack is another expression of emotion, of being disturbed by this. Where, alack, shall time's best jewel from time's chest lie hid? If stone and steel can't keep out this destructive force, a chest that you would keep the best jewel in, well, the chest isn't going to do much. So where can you hide it to keep it safe? Or what strong hand can hold his swift foot back? Well, who's he then? Well, he is time. And the swift foot, the quick advancing time, he's saying, what can we do to possibly hold time back so it won't destroy everything? And then there's one more question here. Or who his spoil of beauty can forbid? Who can forbid time from spoiling a beautiful flower, my beautiful beloved, this oil painting that I love that's eventually going to decay and be destroyed? Who can hold his swift foot back? And then in the couplet, he finally answers the question. Oh, none. There's no one. There's nothing that can stop this. Unless, and here's a turn, this miracle What's this miracle? Well, if we read on, maybe we'll know what he means by this miracle. Oh, none unless this miracle have might, have the strength, that in black ink my love may still shine bright. So this miracle is writing poetry. This miracle is, maybe if I can write about my love and the beauty of my love in poetry, this is the one thing that can endure this onslaught. Now, you could, of course, question that and say, well, this file will get deleted. You know what I mean? Or if it's in a book, that the book will, get ruined in a flood or whatever. However, part of what people did for many centuries was they memorized the poems and passed them down generation to generation. It was a spoken tradition. Look, I don't know if we know how long poems can be preserved. Immortality, eternal life, that's an awfully long time. But it is something that poets, have throughout history striven for, or hoped for, is the idea that if you can write a poem great enough that it can preserve your thoughts, your emotions, what you're depicting can be preserved in a way that is resistant to fashion, to the vagaries of time, the way that newspapers lose their relevancy, or a story that comes out on a news website. It's really important the day it comes out, but are you really spending your time going back to read a news post from 3 years ago or 18 years ago or something? I mean, it happens. There's sometimes people are researching things and they use that, but I guess what I'm saying is poetry is supposed to have a broader, more enduring appeal, hopefully. This poem has been around since 1609. That's more than 400 years, so it's a long time. It's not quite eternity, but anyway, that's what Shakespeare is talking about in this poem. So I could talk about more things. What can I tell you before I go here? He uses a fair number of metaphors in here. The swift foot is a very specific way of talking, but it's figurative, it's metaphorical in talking about time. Who can hold his swift foot back? Or time's best jewel from time's chest. By talking about a jewel, he's making an image of something valuable, but I think in a way he's speaking more generally about something that's beautiful, but it's more powerful when you give it specific imagistic form rather than saying something valuable. That a phrase like that, it's not even linguistically very interesting, but you also can't picture it. So instead he asks, where shall time's best jewel from time's chest lie hid? And of course there's the double meaning of chest too, that it could be a treasure chest, but it also could be in a way saying that the best jewel is the heart, and that being in the chest there. I guess I would also just say that as much as the language might seem, foreign and of a different time, when you realize what the poem is about, I mean, a big part of it being about just realizing the power of the perishability of all things, or of nature's ability to destroy everything eventually, and then him professing, oh, fearful meditation. I mean, I would just say that's certainly something at a certain point in my life I realized, that everything that I loved, or even that I myself would not last forever, And he says, "Oh, fearful meditation." It's very anxiety inducing, and it might not be the way you would say it now, but the feelings are still totally normal human feelings. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. Thanks.